years ago, we could have had it in a telephone box. Okay? 3 years ago, we would have upgraded to our garden shed. And today it's evident that we had to hire a room and get some chairs in. So something has been happening in Scotland to recovering communities. My name's Kuladharini, and I'm the Chief Executive of the Scottish Recovery Consortium. And today, like 90%, maybe more than 90% of the people in this room, I'm in recovery from addictions. And like everybody in this room, I have got a heart and a practical level of support for growing recovery communities. So, we're all here for the same thing. Something has happened. We counted yesterday, Leslie and I, and even I'm surprised by what's going on. We counted yesterday, and we figured that the beach hut, a year and a half, we'd have 10 representatives in it. Did you remember we had Raft? Andy's here from Raft. We had ARC, we had Serenity, of course, the first, and we had, I'm trying to remember, some other groups. There was Just Like Us in the Milton, there was Sober Thoughts in Lanarkshire, there were a few, well, but you could have said 10 comfortably. Today, we looked it up again, because I don't believe it, there are now 60. 60. That's why we had to hire a room. So 2 years ago, the dialogue was, is recovery happening? Is it really happening? Is what is happening? In fact, some quite stand-up people had said, recovery's not happening in Scotland. I didn't believe that, because my own experience in the south of Glasgow was, it was underground, but it was definitely happening. It was always happening in fellowship. We stand on fellowship. It was starting to get a headway in treatment, but this new area that was opening up was quite fascinating. So the kind of recovery groups we're talking about today are from this new area, these new independent recovery support groups and communities. Now, they're not fellowships. Fellowships are there, are strong and are growing and are vibrant in their own right, and we are grateful for them. I, for one, am grateful for them. They're not treatment. Treatment is there and growing and vibrant and learning to get into recovery. But there's something in the middle that you all represent here today. And it's this altruistic dimension of recovery. The giving back turned into a public forum. The giving back in your local community. The going back to where we caused havoc and helping it get better. That has always happened in little groups around Scotland, but never before has it connected up in the way that it is now. So something is happening. Now, these groups have many things in common, and I'll say a bit more about that today. But one thing they all have in common today, most of them, 90% of them, have received a grant from the Recovery Initiative Fund. And it's today that we're celebrating the first anniversary of giving out that first grant. So that is a major piece of work completed everybody. So thank you for everything that you've done in the last year to make recovery grow in the way that it's done. Communities. It's been done by people like you and me who've got a yen to give back, who've got up and did it. And it's been done all over Scotland. And they all have that Recovery Initiative Fund. A very simple idea, put into practice, done well. And the simple idea was, we believe if we put a little bit of money into the hands of people in recovery directly, that will grow into something quite spectacular. And I think to go from 10 to 60 in just over a year just tells us that that faith was more than justified. Our faith in ourselves and you was more than justified. So well done to you. Give yourselves a round of applause. You know, there's no one person in recovery who looks like this. There's no one age of recovery. There are many. And what I see in this room is the diversity of this growing community. And that is one of the features. I think I'll just finish with a couple more of the common cultures, because the other thing we have in common is there's an emerging culture, and you'll see that from all the speeches. The first cultural thing is the joyousness of our activity. When you gather people, you're experiencing it already, the sheer positivity in the room is palpable. And we have a Saturday morning test. We've got the test. Anybody who's done conversation cafe training or been at the colleges or heard me speak for 10 minutes, here's me sharing about this test that we do. We're not doing it unless you're doing it personally and you would get up on a Saturday morning in the middle of winter and it's wet and cold and you'd be really happy to go. That's the cold Saturday morning test. And that's the test that we use for any event. Are you going to go? Are you going to go personally? And would you be happy to do it on a cold wet Saturday morning? That allows us to feel joyous. And if it doesn't meet those criteria, we don't do it. We've got hundreds of ideas. We don't have to do that one. The second thing, as you see, is people roll in large numbers. Once the recovery community starts getting going, they don't roll in 2s and 3s, they roll in 10s and 20s. So you see that all the cafes opening up, we open up slowly, and then we find that the Postal Drop-In has 50, the Sunday Social has 60, and the Restoration Cafe starts to grow. So we roll in large numbers, and the joy and the advantage of rolling in large numbers is if somebody is not feeling so good that day, there's plenty of people to take a hand. Geese use this, the geese group, they say that one goose flies in a hand, and when it gets tired it can go to the back and others take their place. And I think you'll see that model is very common amongst all of the recovery support groups. It's the way we keep our recovery going and keep our joy as well.